Welcome everyone to Podcast Event Core. I'm Admin 1 of NEFX, and here with me now is...
Alex.
Yep, way out from
So
Australia.
we're gonna call it Marathon Men.
Yeah, we could call that too. It could be a crossover episode.
Be Podcast Event Core, Marathon Men.
That's basically the theme of it, although it won't be dismayed, of course, as we'll cover soon. One of the things that we talked about beforehand that we might cover is the taxonomy, if you will, the various Bobs and Babs, as we call them, and what it all means, why they were there, and various other things. But actually, I wanted to ask you first, before we really dive into that, do you have any updates overall when it comes to marathon stuff?
I do. And I will tell you this. I downloaded the latest version of LF1 that I will say it's great. The game looks great. There's so many options. Mouse controls still suck.
Oh, do they? What's wrong with them?
Oh, okay. I mean, in a normal game that's been ported to modern systems, such as Duke Nukem, Doom, you move your mouse a little bit and it will move a little bit. Marathon, it still has like little... It's still moving on like a strange plane of existence that I don't understand, which I guess is like deeply embedded in the source code, and we can't blame them, but...
Wait.
There may be a way to make it.
You don't have mouse acceleration checked on, do you?
Oh! Come on, admin. Complaining about mouse control. You really think I'm an amateur here? I know what I'm doing!
Alright, just the way you described that made me think of like mouse acceleration, because that seems to paradoxically not accelerate it at all, but drag it around.
Oh, I think it's just an innate issue.
So the next thing actually was, you brought this up, well, we both kind of brought it up, it was Apotheosis X by Hypersleep. It's the big new thing, a scenario so big that it actually got featured on alf1.lowan.org as one of the default big total conversion scenarios you can download, which, to give perspective, it hasn't happened in years because, well, granted, around the same time they put it up there, they also put it up for Huge, which hadn't been the case for a few years after it was released, but for years and years...
Did they ever put Huge on that?
They did, yeah. They put Huge on there, and they also put Trojan on there. But I think the impetus for putting Huge and Trojan on there was that they had to put Apotheosis X up there, and they decided, well, while we're at it, we'll put up these other two. But for years before that, it was just like the same.
They didn't put Huge up till this one came out. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah. I don't think Huge was up before Apotheosis X one was up.
That's shitty and embarrassing and upset that...
Well, I mean, of course, Huge was up on Simplicity.com for years, but it just wasn't on the alf1.lowan.org main page for a long time, because they just didn't upload it, or update that for a long time. For a long time, it was just Phoenix, Rubicon, Eternal, Red, Evil, and Tempestside Ray. But Apotheosis X was the thing of, wow, this is so big and so new and so up there with the greats that it has to be put up there, so we'll put up these other two while we're at it. I'm pretty sure that's how it happened.
And Huge meant nothing to these cretins?
Oh, Huge meant a lot to them. They didn't upload the Lowan.org page for whatever reason for a long time.
That is very interesting that the page was updated.
Yeah. But yeah, Apotheosis X apparently is a huge overhaul of the original Apotheosis, which was made years before. And this new one...
I played a bit of the original.
Yeah, and apparently this one is enough of an overhaul that it counts almost as like an entirely new game. But it's got...
Yeah, it doesn't look anything like the one I remember. But it looks very nice. It looks very cool.
It's probably the most visually impressive marathon scenario I've seen to date. Like, it has very high definition textures, and I mean, if you looked... I feel like in some cases, if you looked at the stills, like these images on the Simplicity upload, and you didn't know that it was from Marathon, you might think it was a much more modern game that wasn't so sprite-based, because it just looks that compelling and convincing.
A lot of indie games have been going for this aesthetic too, as well, lately.
Yeah. I guess one of the possible giveaways would be like the very rigidly geometrical design, like in the second image. But you can't help that, and it's fine anyway.
Uh,
It's still great.
I think, yeah, it looks great. You're right.
So one of these days,
So
I'd
you
love to
want to.
play it. I do want to get back at some point to regularly doing the Total Carnage playthroughs, and I think I'm getting closer to that once I learn and contribute enough as far as scripting and coding to Marathon that I'll feel justified in going back to outside of the usual annual Summer Slaughterfest events that I do. There's a
The
whole lot of weapons
weapons
in there.
look great. The textures, yeah, it's a really great looking mod.
Yeah, so congratulations to Hypersleep for yet another kind of paradigm shifting scenario, proving that it's still possible to do in 2022 and 2023.
It is the year of our Lord and Savior.
I like the color schemes too,
The,
especially like the kind of heavy, murky industrial orange.
yeah, like I said, it looks great.
And a lot of
Reminds
the
me a lot
seasoned
of
veterans like it a lot. The Man gave it a good review, Irons did, Uki Malafu, Sharky Lino. Pretty much everyone loves this thing, so if you haven't played it yet, definitely check it out.
and if you don't want to check it out, and Odom.
Yep, if you don't want to check it out, check out Marathon Key Finder instead, which you should still check out anyway. But yeah.
Check it out. Marathon Nampa.
Yep. Nampa and Key Finder and Path Sifter and Sucks and all the other ones. The real paradigm shifters. Just kidding. But
I have a map pack that I will send you. Can't remember when it was, but several years ago when I was unemployed and really depressed, and my therapy for myself was just making these interesting designs in Marathon, and some of them are actually pretty cool.
yeah, I'd love to
Like I
play
think
that.
anything that encourages creativity, like I bet I'm not the only one who when they were depressed, to Marathon and made like some cool stuff. Like
Yeah, it's kind of what my first two scenarios came out of: Shader Void and Green Marathon Green. You snooze, you lose. I mean, that was also just part of me
yeah,
trying to find my footing with creating stuff. But yeah, that's how I got started, and it's snowballed into various other things. So I can imagine how that would
they're
help.
cool.
But yeah, I'd love to play those. I don't know how many maps you've made or released. Of course, I am thankful that you gave me
Never
the old
released
stuff I
any
used
of them
for.
actually.
Oh, you haven't?
Oh, but I think some of them are pretty cool, in my opinion. There are a lot of ideas. Really love using the 5D space stuff. That's something you'll find in a lot of them.
Oh, good. I love the 5D space stuff. It's
I
especially
love
funny
making
to
those
use like on
bridges.
survival mode.
Those bridges that you can make. I love making stuff like that.
And I gotta thank you again, by the way, for those assets that I ended up repurposing for what would
Oh
become Marathon
yes,
Nampa. That was a real riot.
that was amazing. Oh my god, I couldn't even imagine that's what you would have made. But the whole like backstory you made for it. Oh man, it's so funny and good.
Yeah, like the opening terminal and stuff.
It reminded me. I was reminded a bit. I was playing through Redneck Rampage rides again recently,
Yeah.
and it's pretty like typical like redneck jokes. But then you get to a level that is based in Waco. It has the cops shooting down a house, and then you blow it up, and I'm like, Waco happened like 2 years before this game was made.
It's pretty
Like,
amazing.
it's
Yeah,
kind of
I didn't
fun.
know that part. I played the first one, I think, but I never got through it, and I didn't know they
Yeah,
did like a
but
Waco reference
Nampa
to the one.
reminded me of that Waco level. I'm like, they like that game was made in like 97, 98. When Waco was like what 95 or something. I was like,
Yeah.
this is kind of fucked, guys.
trying to think, probably the closest to that Marathon has, well, other than Marathon Nampa, I guess would be something like Marathon West, which is this old, rare, I think even multiplayer only mod for the original first Marathon, where you were out in this kind of western town shooting at each other with 6 guns.
I feel like I've played that on emulator. I feel that sounds very familiar.
Yeah, at some point I might end up showcasing it on my retro iMac that I got. One new thing that I've been very interested in lately is new scripts and physics models. And I don't know how many of those you've worked on before, Alex, but I imagine you would have some pretty good ideas as far as, different ways to alter the way Marathon works. Have you ever dabbled in those before?
Yeah, I recall back now was at the little man of probably about 5 feet. He used to have like 3 Macs, and we would play network games, and had some physics models that we would make. I remember one that we got was very fun. You remember the fusion pistol? If you held down the right click, alternate fire, it would leave a mine, and then if anyone ran into it, they would die. That was very fun.
Oh yeah, I made a fairly similar physics model where you lay mines. I actually used the secondary fire in the assault rifle for that. You just lay mines every time. There's still some people who do that. Apparently, the Vituperator from the Marathon Evil Club, he said that he still occasionally has like these Marathon LAN parties down in Austin, Texas, and he actually hosted like a party for his kids. His kid, where his kid and their friends basically got together and did that.
Love to go to that, but that guy sounds. I don't know. My God, he's making his kids play Marathon. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure he's nice. Yeah, this.
Call
this
Child
guy,
Protective Services is making him play a dinosaur game.
Hey, don't spill the beans too much on my dinosaur idea, admin.
Well, I meant dinosaurs in like a game that old people play.
Oh, I thought you were trying to tell him about dinosaurs.
No, I realized after I said that. Oh, he might think about literal dinosaurs or something like that.
That's what. I'm making a different game, but I would love to make an FPS one day. The style you were saying that it would be cool to have such animation in an FPS, which I agree with.
Well, I think you could probably do it in ALF1 or something. I'd love to see a marathon scenario you'd make. Main thing I remember about Half-Life actually is I found out that one of the official stock net maps that had been made for one of the games, maybe Half-Life 2 or something, was actually taken from a fan map made for Marathon 1.
Really?
Yeah, that's some pretty interesting, deep lore, if you will.
Exciting.
But yeah, to your point about the mines in that old Marathon physics file you played, the one that I made that has the mines in it, it looks like it also has, for the fists, you start with fists that you can, with which you can drop infinite bouncing bombs that detonate once they settle, so they make the kind of a bouncing noise, kind of like the cyborg grenade bouncing noise. Those kind of drop. And also, I modified in that same script or physics file, I modified the rocket launcher to fire more explosives in a faster and honing fashion, albeit with one shot per clip. So,
remember, I tried to make like a marathon if it was like realistic, and I made like you fall really fast, and I was like, this is really boring. It wasn't a good script file or physics file.
Was it too boring because it was too real?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, this is why the game's fun. Like trying to change that. Although I made one that I think makes Marathon 2 much more fun. It's called Underwater Baby. It just lets you shoot your guns underwater. Which I think makes that game much more fun because punching to death underwater is not fun.
Yeah, I actually
slowly.
I made a script much like that where all weapons worked under liquid and all monsters could fly too. And this is especially good for net
Uh,
maps that take place mostly or entirely under liquid,
Yeah,
which I've made a few
it's
of
not
those.
it's not fun just standing in front of the flickers and waiting for them to die. Like
Yeah, like in
even
level
Half-Life
21 or
lets you
whatever.
shoot underwater with some guns.
Yeah, and it's cool because that way when you have that sort of mod, you can have almost sort of like a descent style combat where everyone's flying and floating and it's so much more
Mm.
open ended. And I've made a few net maps that way where there's still plenty of SMGs should one opts to play without that script, but you know with the script you can use all the weapons underwater and it just adds a totally different dynamic. And to that point, I've been interested in possibly making like a scenario where um, it's basically all taking place underwater, but there's no um, loss of oxygen per se, and I might even mod it so that there's no sound or a um, color difference in your vision from being under liquid because it'll basically be like you're flying all the time, sort of like in
I
Descent.
remember one mod Return to Marathon. I had to fly over to Marathon and they patched the Marathon application so when you're under liquid you don't see any color, so it seemed like you were in space going over to the marathon.
Awesome.
I died a while ago and I'm very sad. I miss it. My little performer was the little engine that couldn't.
Rest in
I'm
peace, Alex's performer.
I'm signed to Sheep Shaver, which isn't working at the moment, which I don't even understand why it isn't working.
I have like a list of different ideas I've fired off. Like I recently made a multiplayer game mode where you actually win by collecting the most items. And I think technically, you know, killing or being killed, does give you one more or less point like usual, but um, it's kind of insignificant because you can very quickly rattle up points by just picking up all the items. And the funny thing for that matter is that usually when you pick up enough items in the game, um, it takes a bit for them to respawn until one of you dies. So it can even be beneficial in that game mode to kill yourself, so that way all the items will respawn again. And keep in mind, this is without the dead players drop items thing toggled. And so you would just kill yourself and then respawn so that we can go back and pick up all the items again. And so that's been really
The
fun.
items that you're collecting.
Any of them, so like the ammunition, the weapons, anything you can pick up that gets added to your inventory is 1 point. So it's like you're
I
trying to
see.
collect more shit than everyone else in the game. And that's been pretty fun. Um, and I've also thought, for that matter, about actually basically already made this. I seem to test it at some point. I actually need to do like a rallying call for people like in the NEFX Vortex server to you know come play these new maps, NEFX net maps with me, and NEFX scripts that haven't been played or tested yet, at least to my knowledge, and then we can showcase them and upload recordings of it to YouTube. But like, there's one where you basically win by dying the most, so that can make for some pretty
That's
weird
fun.
and funny, net games versus people like blowing themselves up over and over, trying to do so
If there's
fast.
like lava pits and stuff, everyone has to go into to be the most dire. That sounds very fun.
Yeah, like let's see what else I have. I also have even this one where you can basically have the game print at random points some kind of a text line, on the top left of the screen. And people have done this for various purposes, like whether to inform people of whether they got something in a serious net game that they made, or just for a joke thing. And this one is kind of a joke. It's like a cult conditioning thing where it's a regular net game, except at all points there's like a message in the top left of the screen saying, NEFX is great. Leave reviews of NEFX uploads on simplicity.com. Donate to NEFX at kofi.com/admin1NEFX today. Um, and I've also thought about, since I mentioned in that game mode I made where you win by collecting the most stuff, and how oftentimes you have to die in order for stuff to come back. I made a script where anytime an item spawns, it takes away everyone's points. So it's sort of like you have to kind of time and plan your playing to win, like relative to the game timer, to make sure that you secure enough points, and then the game ends before the items spawn enough to take away all the points. So it's kind of a weird experimental one.
Like that. I like the sound of that.
And then I also made this one where instead of winning by collecting, you basically lose by collecting. So every time you run over an item, you lose 1 point, and so you want to actually avoid the items instead. Knowing that, of course, you have to. It's sort of like a game of blackjack, where you stand to win more if you get more stuff to a point, but if you get too much, then it's a bust. Because in this case, you'll want to have more supplies to basically kill your enemies to rack up more points, but not too many, because then whatever points you gain by killing won't be enough to offset the points you lost by collecting a bunch of shit. So
cool. Like that. I like that.
Oh, also to the point about solo games, I'm actually working on a scenario that's basically entirely terminal based. It's basically a marathon encyclopedia. Everyone's hearing it first, where like every level is just a bunch of terminals where you read them and you learn a bunch of facts that I wrote out and selected about various things, including about marathon itself and Lewis scripts, but also just history, politics, science, philosophy, etc. And it'll feature the introduction of a new character of this like intergalactic mechanical alien, almost messiah, who's trying to gather information from like a separate dimension from Earth, like extracting as much info as possible, because they've been called to warn it of its own possible demise. And so it refers to things from the 20th century, like happening this year, as being like in the past tense. He doesn't know whether they've gone extinct or not, but just has to send a message.
Did you say it's just the 21st century?
No, it is stuff from like prehistory, like from 2.5 million years prior to today. But in the text, in the terminal messages, it'd be referred to as, according to studies for 2.5 million years prior to the 21st century, the hominids did this and that. And so I've been making these templates where I make levels that use the most possible amount of computer terminals that can be done in a level, which normally is 90. But
that's a good thing to try and achieve.
Yeah, but Douche Tower actually told me about a script I can make through Lua, in which I loop through each terminal and assign a permutation to the next value. So that way I could have as many as, and I did the calculations, like if I made an entire level that covered all the possible surface area that could be made in like Wayland's a level editor, and I had...
Is this all original? Are you writing all of this? Or are you...
Yeah, I'm writing all of it. And I may not do this yet.
All of history up until now.
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, it kind of jumps back and forth. And the thing of it is, it's like each level is a room of terminals where you can access any one of them in any order you want. And so, each one of them has concerns different eras or different subjects. But the first one at least will just be the maximum standard 90 terminals. I've calculated that if I made the most possible terminals using my standard grid system, there could be 3,878 terminals in an entire level. So maybe someday I'll make something like that if I get that Lua trickery right that Douche Tower advised me on.
Yeah, how are we gonna fit all of history?
Well, I won't. I mean, there'll be more than one level. It'll never encompass all of history.
Are you starting from the start, or like
No, I'm jumping back and forth. Like each terminal could cover something from a different age. It's not really about like a linear...
What's the first terminal gonna say?
Well, the first terminal the player will be in front of when they launch the level will be like an expository one explaining why they're there and who the character is, and what the mission is. And then everything else they can access in whatever order they want. They can go left, right, up, down to just read whatever terminals they want in whatever order. It is kind of an absurdist venture, but it just seems like a thing to
like
do,
it.
especially
I
because
like it.
it's one major aspect of Marathon that distinguishes it from the other things that people love, which is just the plot and the terminals and accessing thereof. So making one that's entirely based around that seems very interesting to me. And it can be educational too, because like I said, it'll basically be like a Marathon encyclopedia, so you can just learn random stuff that's still, I think, very pertinent.
We can teach some Marathon fans about Hitler and such.
Oh yeah, that's definitely going in there. All sorts of stuff, all sorts of oppressive regimes, over the years, what could be gleaned from them. And the funny thing is, each terminal has one sentence, but I found ways to make the sentences pretty long with lots of detail, where they're either artfully run-on sentences or technically not, but go into the very hilt of what you could get away without making it a run-on sentence.
I could tell you what the Hitler one should be. It should just say bad man.
Yeah.
Bad man.
Yeah. I mean, it'll go over many different things, many different topics. Like, I might even have like a wild card sort of fact in there where it's just about something trivial, like the history of cake or toothpicks or something like that, or maybe urinal cakes.
It's the history of toothpicks.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas actually for possible scripts? Maybe I can see if I can make one of them.
That's not even a script thing. I would just like to see a shotgun that you can use the whole game.
Like an infinite shotgun?
Not infinite, but you know how it is in Doom, where you can... You don't really get to do that in Marathon. That would be cool.
I don't think I quite get it, like...
Well, I mean, in Marathon, I guess your main weapon is the assault rifle. I'd like to see a shotgun instead.
Oh, I see. So like a shotgun that's modified enough where it become the main weapon.
Yeah.
Okay.
You never get to use the shotgun much in Marathon 2 or 3. I'd like to get to use the shotgun all the time. I think that would be cool.
That would be nice. What if I made like an entire scenario where it was just different forms of shotguns over and over? Like you'd have the standard one that you would start out with, kind of like how you start off with a shotgun in Quake, and then you have another one that's like basically like a double barrel where it's twice the power, twice the reload time as well, and then ones that's like different scattering patterns and stuff like that.
I think I would love that.
It'd just be called Marathon Shotgun.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. I'm all about that.
I'm getting ideas all the time for new scenarios. It's just like I imagine one trait that could be isolated above all else, and I just think, oh yeah, I'll make an entire scenario about that.
Hey, maybe you can do that, and we can use my levels that I sent. And maybe it can be a whole thing.
Do you think you can upload those? Like, do you think they're finished enough? Like to upload them to simplicity.com?
Send them to you. I don't know if they're simplicity ready.
Yeah, well, I'd love to play them, check them out. Even if they're not finished, they could be good for like playing XBLA survival mode in.
Oh yeah. What folder? Yeah, I'm sure I'll find them. What folder did I put them in? Downloaded one recently. It was some guy's attempt to make a city map in Marathon 1, and had like a brothel or something you can go to, and it had a Bob in like a bikini, and I was like, this predates Duke Nukem 3D though. That's like
yeah, I guess this is about time we should get into it. Alex and I talked a bit beforehand about the weird phenomenon of all the different custom Bobs and Babs, as we call them, which are the female versions of Bobs basically, and what even constitutes a Bob, which I guess we'll get more into later, but.
Well, I think what constitutes a Bob is a born on board. I would assume there would be like 50% of them would be female, right?
You would think. I mean, the jury's kind of out on that one. There's many different theories as to you know, the nature of
Well,
how.
I think the idea is that were women, but could only make one Bob Sprite with the memory because they said there was meant to be an alien crew member of the on the four ships in Marathon One and didn't have the memory. So I would assume the idea is that there are women. It's just technology at the
Yeah,
time.
that's quite possible. I mean, there's different theories, and we also have to consider how much of what things look like is simply because of the engine limitations or time constraints of developing the game at the time. But
Well, I mean, how would a single sex colony procreate?
well, the easy explanation for that is that they just cloned them over and over, which would
Oh,
be like a
they're all the
simple.
same guy cloned a million times.
Yeah,
That's
and like the
that.
simple
Yeah,
explanation would be for why they all basically look and sound the same and say the same stuff.
that's a good theory. I do like it.
Um, or maybe what if maybe they're like a bunch of ants and like Leela was the queen mother or something, even though she's an AI.
Ugh,
um,
I don't like that so much.
but
Layla.
but yeah, for those of you out there who don't know, I mean, I'm sure if you're familiar at all with Marathon, you've at least inferred that there's been many different versions of the Bobs made over the years. It's weird, especially because, like, firstly, you got to wonder at what point is it not a Bob? Because there's like a few criteria for what would make a Bob. Like either that you would bear some sort of likeness to a Bob, meaning that you would use and maybe reappropriate some of the original pixel imagery, sprite texture for it, and or sounds of the Bob class, if you will, in Marathon, or that it, uses the, I guess you could say, shell of, the Bob physics to create, whatever. Could have the same, maybe it would have totally different sounds and appearance, but, and maybe even totally different physics, but it would still be using the Bob class as like a template or a starting point. It's like at what point is a Bob not a Bob anymore? I don't know. What do you think?
What do you have more to say? I was going to answer that question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say a Bob is a born on board, so shares all those same inherent traits of a Bob, like wearing the uniform
Or just thematically
Marathon
being
2.
born on board, meaning on a spaceship.
Or Marathon 2 being a soldier that Durandal sends in to fucking like nightmare situation, but yeah. Main thing about being a Bob is being born on board, yeah. And yeah, like I was saying, were women, it's just they could only load one sprite set at the time.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
maybe even the criteria would just be that they're called Bobs or some derivation thereof, like to the point about the different custom-made female Bobs over the years. There's one called the Pistol Pack and Robertas. Roberta as in Robert, as in
Are we gonna get into
Bob.
that? I have a lot of things to say about
Yeah.
those.
I mean, let's just go like down the list. I mean, we have the Amazons, right? We have the Betty Bobs from 1995, which I think might have been the thing you saw on that city map, with Pistol Pack and Robertas. And then we have we have the Babs from Revenge of the Babs, who I like those the best is because they make me think of a Prisoner 849 from Unreal, which is one of my favorites. And then we have we have the Kates, which I know you have a lot to say about. They're the ones. They're the ones made by Lauren Petrick, I think is how you pronounce it.
Who were the Pistol Pack and you said before then?
So Pistol Pack and Roberta's, I think they had like a white hair and sunglasses.
Okay, I don't think I've seen those, but I know all the others.
Well, I'll put up an image for everyone, and I think you as well to see, because I think someone made. I'm pretty sure it might have been you who made one of the original images that Cooked Bread, the mod on Marathon Discord, eventually made like a sort of meme Cook Bread made it for Robert Blake from Marathon 2, using the different expressions he did. And the top one where Robert Blake was unimpressed, it was, all the different female
Oh
Bobs
yeah.
over the years, and then the bottom one was um, Robert Blake liking the one of the game protagonist and one of the Bobs making out in front of the pride flag. That was a pretty good one. I like that one.
Funny looking at this because I'm like responsible for like 80% of this image. Like, I made that sexy four, and I made that image of them kissing on
Right, yeah.
pride flag with Marathon.
Yeah, it's a good one.
That is my mark on the Marathon community. Those two stupid things.
Yeah, I love that one. Well, also, your part in Marathon Napa. I imagine it must have been fairly vindicating to have made those assets and then finally see them come to use in something like that.
If you showed little kid me what you did with them, I'm sure a little kid me would be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, what the fuck is probably the only appropriate reaction.
Yeah. Any Bobs? I don't know. Well, the Bobs die a lot in that game. Did the person who made it want women to die? Oh.
I don't know. It might depend on what difficulty level you were playing it on.
They played it on kindergarten like a little baby. Baby.
And so there's all three of those. There's the Kates. There's the cave Bobs from Excalibur, basically the prehistoric,
Oh
like
yeah.
Neolithic
Also
whatever
the
versions.
women with like bows and arrows that shoot you.
That's right, yeah. Or they were like, throw rocks or use clubs or something like that. There were also the civilians, the tourists in Los Disneys and Blood of Bin Laden. And actually, no, in the latter case, I mean, both those scenarios made by J. Christopher Huddy. It's like these kind of satires, although the nature of the satire is kind of questionable, but...
I'd say both of those suck.
Yeah.
They're really bad.
I mean, I like the cinematic aspects of it, and they're kind of funny, especially the websites that were made for them. But yeah, they are pretty ridiculous. But I mean, the Los Disney's ones, those always crack me up because of the.
I hate that Bin Laden one because go to the Middle East and like, it's like kids crying and stuff, and I'm like,
oh
yeah,
yeah,
I feel good about killing Osama Bin Laden. Like, I don't fucking get it.
Yeah, it's pretty dumb, and that particular thing is probably the most depressing marathon-related thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But Los
Also, I've
Disney's
been on the
one.
guy's website and he's like, Abla, or whatever his name is like, John Johnson is a very cool artist, and he made these two subversive games, and I'm like, subversive? They're just bad.
Yeah. But But I did enjoy in Los Disney's how they were all like wearing the Mickey Mouse hats, and like if you kill one of them, then the others will like come up to you with cameras.
Making fun of Disney is like the easiest thing you can do.
Yeah, really making fun of Disney and making fun of Bin Laden, especially in that era, were like the two easiest targets ever.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think he punched very high.
Right. Well, he quit after that. Well, quit marathon modding anyway. So. Oh, and there's also in this scenario, Fajour. Maybe that's how you pronounce it. I might be fucking it up, but it had been made by Candace Sheriff or She-Bob. Unfortunately,
I think I remember She-Bob. I feel like I've seen her stuff before.
Yeah, unfortunately, she died in like 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, so rest in peace, She-Bob. But she made it
Rest
sort of like
a
female Bob that I guess it's more like a character insert. I think it was supposed to be like a
Makes me
self-portrait
sad.
of her. I do want to play that
that,
scenario at some point. It looks like it's a pretty well done and actually kind of funny one. Like it has like some sly humor. I mean, you might have seen like an image of like a red defender watering plants or something like that. And there's also this is one of the weirdest and most kind of inside joke ones that was fairly known for a bit back in the day. Bob Levitas from Macworld. There was actually a mod that just replaced all the bobs. I think he
I
probably
was
had the
in
same
the
sounds.
That was in the attract screen at the end of Marathon Infinity demo.
That's right. Yeah, I remember seeing that too.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
yeah.
like, who the hell is that? It's just like this regular
Yeah.
guy in a shirt and beard and glasses
He was like
replacing
a
the
Mac
bobs.
journalist or something, right?
Yeah, he was considered like a, well, jokingly like a some kind of pastor of, you know,
Yeah,
Mac
royalty,
gaming
yeah.
or Macintoshes, which
That's
was
funny.
really important back in the day when, you know, Mac gaming was like this niche, precious niche thing that we were trying to carve out before
Yeah.
everything became compatible and everything. And there's just the pretty bizarre patches made for basic bobs, like the Microsoft Windows logo, bobs with like different hairdos and just weird stuff. I wonder, what does it all mean? Like, I have to wonder how, because I'm sure people modded other classes, you know, monster classes or whatever in Marathon more than the bobs, but you know, I guess it was just that these ones were the only human ones, and so they became like these projecting screens for a lot of our weird ideas, some of which conflicted in kind of ironic ways. Like, you might recall, I guess you mentioned this before, it was kind of an issue for you, and I can see why. Whoever made the Kates, he said in the text file that it was in response to what he called the bimboized versions of the Babs from before or something like that.
I think in his attempt to not be sexist, ended up more sexist by being like, they're not like the Babs. They're like this. They're refrigerators with arms.
It's kind of, yeah, it's kind of an interesting way to put it. It looked like, I don't know, they look like they never skipped leg day. It's really bizarre.
And like with like a man who doesn't know anything about art and has no artistic talent criticizing someone who does, like, that shit pisses me off so much. He's like, "Well, this one was bad, but my one's good," and then he makes the shittiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I like the way you put it, like
I hate
refrigerators with legs.
that.
Oh wait, no, refrigerators with arms. Excuse me. I was thinking legs
So,
because
like,
I thought they never skipped leg day.
the Babs are cartoony and exaggerated, but
But anyway, yeah, those are all the bobs and babs we found, and I would argue, to a degree, the bibs. That's my name for the children bobs, because you know they have to wear bibs when they eat their space rations.
never really did get children in Marathon except Lost Disney's. They were just tiny Bobs.
Yeah, and it goes to show what a difference in tone it makes. Like when you kill, you know, when you end up killing the Los Disney civilians, it's, you know, darkly comical, and then when it happens in Blood of Bin Laden, you feel like shit.
Yeah, that's true. Very right there.
I actually think that in both of those games, the best parts seem to almost happen outside of the game, if that makes sense. Like thematically, like the most memorable parts of the game don't seem to be like things where it's screaming at you, this is about Disney or this is about Bin Laden. It's like these weird in between spaces that I like the most.
Yeah, I think it's meant. I think both of them are meant to be conversation starter.
Yep.
I think that's what he was going for.
But all things considered, the websites for those are probably more entertaining than the scenarios themselves. I think he put more effort into those than the levels.
Wonder what his next art piece is.
How old is Marathon at this point?
Well,
first, 30.
Yeah, first one came out in '94, so coming up on 30 years.
Oh, no. I'm 30 and from being born in 91. It's not 30 years. Admin. I'm not that. It is 28. Oh man, even saying that makes me feel bad. Oof. Okay, we're getting old. Maybe that should be a topic in this episode.
That could be, but
Okay.
you know, I think we both have things going that keep our spirits feral well after many would check out. So I think we're going to be all right.
That's true.
I really don't feel bad about getting older. Some people do, but I will say I am a Scobell, and Scobells don't go bald. So I'm seeing a lot of people I know going bald, and you laughed. I wasn't gonna laugh at that. I'm just saying
Yeah, it's
that's
just
that's
I
cool.
just like that you're like it sounds almost like you're keeping track. Like, ha, at least I still got that. I got the not balding part.
Well, yeah, no. The older you get, the more you start to worry about stuff. That not true?
I don't know. I think in some ways I'm worrying less now than I did 5 years ago. Well, I mean, I wasn't bothered by turning 20, but I remember thinking back then, oh man, what's it gonna be like when I turn 30? I was afraid, but maybe because I've been doing so much better and I've figured a lot of things out. By the time it happened, it didn't really bug me. It was cool.
It's
I
good to
finished
hear.
like the Tempest Ray Total Carnage playthrough that week. I
Oh,
basically had
you
like
get
a
into the college.
joking birth week where I basically played that and had some Portland, Oregon pizza and
How
stuff.
you? That sounds really great. Is that how you turn 30?
Yeah.
That's. I can't remember what I did, but that's probably close to what I did. But that's great. I think yeah, the older you get, the more you realize that little stupid things you used to worry about don't really matter. And I volunteered to do the election yesterday in Australia, where I sat at the table and people off and stuff when they came in, and seeing all the little 18-year-olds coming in to vote and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and how nervous they were about something that doesn't matter. I'm like, kind of sums it up. Like, I remember being 18 and being like, oh man, I'm gonna vote. Now it's just like, this doesn't matter. Like, there's nothing to be nervous about. Like, that's the kind of zen that you get getting older, right?
It seems to be more that way for me, yeah. I'm pretty glad
It's
about it.
great.
Like, I don't even care that I spend so much time on a game that's considered widely irrelevant if people even know what it is.
Hey, there are people like me and you who still game means a lot to us. It was our Doom growing up, and the Doom community still popping off, and they're making a million things a year, and they
Yeah,
don't care. So we can have our little shitty Mac thing that we like.
it's pretty good, and I don't know, I sometimes forget that, because I share stuff that I make and even like video trailers for it, like for Marathon Sucks on different platforms, different pages on different platforms about Marathon, and people enjoy it, but it seems more like they still kind of view it as more of a retrospective thing. I'm crazy enough that I view Marathon still as
Yeah,
almost like a living, breathing entity.
I
Whereas I
love
think for
that.
a lot of
Yeah,
people,
no,
it's sort of like, they fire it up every now and then to kind of, bring them back to whatever period, like an old Simpsons season or something like that.
it's interesting. But there was something you said before that I wanted to elaborate on, but it was something about how it was saying oh, it was like it's still a part of you. Yeah. And I think that it's the same way with like Doom people. It's still a part of them, and like I think that's great with any game that has like modding tools that Marathon or any game like Doom or anything like that has. Like the fun doesn't ever have to end, you know? Like it can always be like a vessel for creativity.
Yeah, I think I
And I think
enjoy
it
it more
was
now than I ever did, in part because I've been able to make so much stuff for it. I didn't for years and years, and then now it's like I made up for all that
yeah.
time by making like 10 scenarios a year. But anyway, those were the main topics we have for today. Do you have anything else to add?
No, not really. I just hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and if you want to contact us, then fuck off. No, I'm just kidding. We'll be on the marathon server, and
Maybe we'll play some games again sometime. Online games. Some of the stuff we've
yeah,
made. And keep an eye out, everyone, for
maybe
not only Marathon Encyclopedia, but also Marathon. I don't know what I'll call it yet. Something involving the word clone, probably. It'll basically be like Key Finder or Path Cipher.
I was just thinking, but I really like the word, the name Marathon Blue.
Marathon
So,
Blue.
look out for Marathon Blue.
Sure.
Be a
There's
thing
there's
coming
red
up.
and there's green, so it might as well be blue too.
Exactly, you know? We might have a Marathon Blue. So it's blue with an accent on the E.
All right, that's it.
If you thought... That's it.
See you next time.
See you next time, kids. Remember, smoke lots of cigarettes.